Beyond.
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 I was gonna go with Beyond never changes, but why would I try to do it? It does change.
It changes
all the
every
time.
week.
Yeah, it changes a lot.
Beyond
Podcast
is
Beyond, baby.
constantly different.
Hey everybody, welcome to Podcast Beyond, episode 418. I'm Max Scoville. Joining me, Marty Sleva,
Hi, Max.
Brian Altano,
Brap.
and Jared Petty.
I don't have a catchphrase.
That works, I guess.
Mine
That's a
was,
decent
I said
catchphrase.
hi to Max.
Yeah.
I thought that was your catchphrase.
So obviously the big topic today is Fallout.
Yeah.
Fallout just came out. It's one of the most anticipated games of a while.
Yeah.
It's been some time. People have been really
Possibly
looking forward
of
to
this generation.
The
I think that's
21st century.
very, very safe. I mean that and like Metal Gear Solid 5, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
But in any case, we put it up. Dan Stapleton reviewed it. He gave it a 9.5 out of 10.
That's right.
It was a 95 out of 100.
That's
A 19 out of 20.
That's a darn good score.
Yeah.
What do we make of it?
I really enjoyed this game. It's the most fun I've had playing a video game this year, and that's saying a lot. 'Cause I played a
Now,
lot of them
Jared,
this year.
you're kind of famously a pretty casual gamer. You don't really get too in depth with games, and you frequently you don't fully understand the systems within them.
That's
How
true.
many hours have you put into Fallout?
I think in
That's
playing
all a
or,
lie.
playing or playing and writing, because those are two different things.
Yeah.
In terms of actual playing, probably only about 50 hours. In terms of playing and writing, at this point, well over 100.
Okay, well, given that the game has been out for like 14 hours at this point, that's pretty good. You've obviously been working on the wikis for this and everything,
Yeah.
all the guides.
Yeah.
You're also heading up a. You're heading up.
It's called the Thoroughfare. In
Sure.
here.
You're heading up the Fallout podcast we're doing, right?
Yeah, that's the Vault IGN, whatever we want to call the thing. This
Sure.
week, the Fallout 4 Review Spectacular. We're having kind of a TV special.
Cool.
It's fun. We're going to have special guests like Wilford Brimley coming in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What, really?
No. But
The ghost of Wilford Brimley?
He's not dead.
Is he
No,
not?
he's still alive. He's talking about the diabetes.
Okay.
He's still
That
around.
guy's still
Anyway,
alive?
but no, yeah, the Vault has been, and reception from the audience has been great. Thank you so much, everybody who watched, and we really appreciate it and wrote in.
Now, obviously, a lot of people are really excited about this game. I played a very short amount of it, and I did probably the quickest 180 I've done with a game in my recollection.
What
as
was that
someone
180?
playing
Because
it.
you were coming into this super stoked. You're telling us all your cool
so-
stories about bugs and
Yep.
Fallout 3.
I love like Fallout 3 is one of my favorite games ever. It is the game that got me into modern gaming as an adult. Like I was in college, wasn't really focused on games too much. I played a few hours of Fallout 4 on PS4, and I was just sort of simultaneously overwhelmed and underwhelmed. And
Oh.
I don't want to crap all over it. I think it's still a game a lot of people are going to really enjoy, but it is exactly a game I don't want right now.
Can you qualify what was underwhelming about it for you?
So it was very familiar. You know, it felt a lot like there are parts of it that feel very new, and there's parts of it that feel like if somebody modded Fallout 3 into Skyrim's engine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
I was kind of expecting. One thing I was really hoping for was that we wouldn't have loading screens. You know, because
I will say that was probably one of my biggest issues with it, and we'll get into all that obviously today. We'll be talking a lot about Fallout. If you're not into it, and by the way, we'll do our best to stay away from any sort of story spoiler
sure.
stuff.
We'll avoid that. Sure.
I don't think that's fair for you or fair for us or anything like that. So we'll keep this pretty clean.
Yeah.
But I think that I was expecting more of that kind of generational leap, and I think at the start of this generation when we bought PS4s and Xbox Ones and high-end gaming PCs, a lot of people really expected that sort of jump from like Nintendo to Super Nintendo, or when games went 3D. And then I think when the dust settled a little bit, we realized that this gen wasn't really about that. It was really more about refining a lot of the infrastructures and systems that we had on last gen, which meant that a lot of the things that we had maybe become over encumbered with, no pun intended for Fallout, we wouldn't have to deal with anymore. And loading screens being one of the big ones. And
Yeah.
I was a big guy for Bloodborne this year. Bloodborne notoriously had minute-long load screens.
But the difference is it had a minute-long load screen, and then until you die, you don't get another loading screen.
Yeah.
So if you're after a couple hours in the game, you could have 30, 40 hour-long runs
Right.
without a loading screen.
yeah,
If
you
you
could
were
actually
really good at one of the hardest video games.
Yeah,
of the year.
sure.
Which, I mean, I wasn't really a big Souls guy, but that was one of those games that loaded in 60 seconds. It's a pain in the ass. Fallout has a lot.
Yeah, to
of
clarify,
loads.
the load screens are the kind where if you want to go into a building, it shows you to one of the many lovingly rendered objects in the Fallout universe rotating. It's basically a Skyrim load screen.
Yeah, but with actually helpful tips this time, which is very nice. So
Yeah,
the
that's
tips
absolutely.
of the screen,
It's nice to have.
It's not like, hey, run faster by holding this. It's like, here's this kind of weapon, which we are just confirming exists in the game and the kind of places you might find it. And you're like, whoa, that's great.
My immediate, I'll be honest, I didn't put much time into the game. I kind of sort of stuck a couple toes in and was like, I think this is too deep. Like I'm not in the right place for this right now. Like I'm feeling, frequently overwhelmed by work. I have a house, I have a dog, I have a fiance. Like there's a lot of stuff that I should be spending more attention to.
Sure.
And I threw 90 hours at Metal Gear.
Yeah, I was just about to say. So, what was it about Metal Gear a month or two ago that was different? Do you think?
Because you had a dog then too.
You did have a dog then.
He has a dog in
Maybe
that
I've
game.
already trained one virtual dog this year, and it's kind of that's.
So is that it then? Are you fatigued on open world games?
I mean, no, I think it's specifically that Fallout is a lot of moving parts. And I remember distinctly going from, I think I jumped from playing Fallout 3 to playing Red Dead Redemption and being a little bit annoyed that you couldn't pick up and look at every single object in the universe.
In Red Dead?
Yeah, and I was like, there's pans on the back of the cart, but you can't do anything with them.
Yeah.
And there was a time when I really wanted that, but at this point, like playing Fallout gave me the same kind of weird anxiety I got when my house is too messy. Like it feels like it's kind of a junk shop of a game. And junk shops are cool. I like to go to them. I like to go to flea markets and yard sales and stuff. But it's a game that's all about finding bits and pieces and connecting them and then kind of refurbishing a house. And it's just like, this is a game that is doubling down on the fact that people will live in this game.
Well, it's like you said, underwhelming and overwhelming for you. Both the arguments you made that made you feel negatively about it, those are things that made me feel positive about it. And they're and I acknowledge the legitimacy of what you're saying there, but you talked about it being, very familiar. Well, for me, it was kind of like, it was a lover's gentle embrace type thing. Hey, I've been away for many years. I've come back, and there you are.
I mean,
Let's get to know
not
each other
shy
again.
about that. The slogan of the game is "Welcome home."
Yeah, and and I loved that. It felt it was comforting to go back to. It was something I discovered. Hey, I've missed this. And then the new degree of complexity. I mean, yes, they've streamlined some of the systems. The perks are much simpler than the old skill system, but they've added the crafting layer, which is a whole other world of new mind-numbing like everything you pick up now has a purpose and a useful purpose.
Well, it has a purpose if you get involved in that crafting system, which the game never really truly makes you feel like you have to.
You don't have to. But
you don't
that's
have
part
to.
of what I like about it.
It is an essential part of some basic rudimentary mission structure to create a generator using trash and rubber nipples that you find and connecting it to a wall and setting up a reception tower to make a transmission. And that is part of a mission. You can haphazardly, diagonally slap that generator down to the ground, slap the thing next to it, connect it with a wire using the button, and walk away. And that's about as much crafting as you would have to do.
If you have to. But if you want to, you can go in there, and not only does crafting reward you with new traders to visit your town, with new wares that you're not going to find other ways, but it also gives you hours and hours of entertainment fighting off different attacks and trying and experimenting with different things. You can level up just by building stuff. There are perks just for building stuff. It's very, very Minecrafty. I appreciated that all that's there, and they're like, yeah, you can do that if you want, and there's a use to it and great rewards, but you don't have to. You can walk away from it. I like that.
That's kind of my crux, the crux of my issues with this game. Okay. And I probably fall somewhere between the two of you on this, in that you're totally in love with it, and Max, you're sort of not. You're just kind of off-put by it. You only played the first few hours. I played almost 25 hours of Fallout 4. We got our copies about a week or two ago. People were tweeting at me like, "How'd you play 25 hours in 25 minutes?" I mean, look at where I work. It's like one of the few. I can't dance, right? But one of the things I can do is get a game early and play it for a while, and
you can learn how to dance.
Yeah, I don't
feel
think
like you'd be a really good.
You can dance if you want to.
He actually will dance to "We Built This City on Rock and Roll."
Yeah.
Oh, let's see.
Your wife told me about that. It's pretty funny.
This city.
Well, I mean, they built this city on rock and roll.
It's amazing.
It's crazy. Yeah. Which you can probably do in Fallout. So one of the things
that was just so sad.
One of the things that okay, so let's just get this out of the way because I've had this on my chest for a while. This is a very giant, very beautiful looking game. There are a lot of people that are looking at this game saying it's ugly and texturally it's not as impressive. It looks like people are like, it's a PS2 game. Look at the dog. He doesn't have as much fur as the dog in Metal Gear.
I think most of those assessments are based on the creepy baby.
I totally get that. and I think that if you boil down a lot of this game to just tiny little pieces of it, it's so easy to be reductive.
Right.
But what you have to do is look at the big picture and say, there are moments when the star of this game is the world. And we were walking around this world, and you were watching the weather and the night and day shift, when all of a sudden this toxic fog rolls over this hill, and it's going through a familiar area that you've passed through 4 times already. But you're seeing it for the 5th time with this thick green smoke over it, and there's these super mutants busting out. And in the horizon, there's the silhouette of a creature that's unlike you've ever seen before. And you know when you approach it, you're going to die, but something makes you want to roll that dice and get there. There's something immaculate and magical about that I've never experienced in any other game. Not even Fallout 3. I think there's something here that's doing that on such a better level than it ever has before. And I think that world and those creatures and exploring sections of, like, I was walking along a pier, and all of a sudden, like, 4 toxic nuclear lobsters popped out of the ground and started fighting me and my friends, my companions in the game. This ragtag group of a dog and a robot and this other guy who just happened to be hanging out with me because of the way I carved my mission structure. There's a lot of really magical moments that happen like that. And those are the things that kept me going, because it was very difficult otherwise to really put up with a lot of what the game couldn't do for me, which was ultimately respect my time as a gamer. And when I play a video game, I kind of want a mix of that. I want that open world, I want that exploration, but I also want to feel like I'm doing something that is incrementally improving me. And I never really connected with that with Fallout, because I felt like the gun upgrade system, while huge and massive, was a little too tedious. It got to the point of almost like tweaking your air pressure in a Gran Turismo game.
Yeah, it does feel that way sometimes.
And it's just a little too much like, well, wait a minute, that's a little too deep there. Or I would end up doing 7 or 8 side missions in a row for one of the different factions. And then after 7 hours of it, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's right. I have a baby. I should go find that baby. And then I would go down that rabbit hole. Now,
rabbit well full of dead rabbits.
One of the things I really appreciated about Metal Gear Solid 5 was the way they had a main mission structure and a side mission structure. And they were very detailed. And the more side missions you did, the more main mission stuff you'd unlock. And the more main missions you did, the more side missions. And they kind of spoke to each other constantly. Fallout just goes, here's a list.
Yeah, and that's actually, you are defining this perfectly. That's what I love about it.
But that's what you love about it.
Exactly. Metal Gear Solid 5 is a bento box. Everything in its proper location. Here's how it all fits. Fallout's a casserole. Just throw it all in there, bake it. It's heavy, it's messy, it's probably bad for you, but boy, it's
I wanted to talk about the food metaphor is really important, because I saw something being passed around a few weeks ago that I think fits perfectly with this, which is that at the start of this generation, the end of last generation, we saw a lot of that, like, sort of rudimentary way of describing DLC as like a hamburger, right? So,
I remember that.
Do you remember that, right?
Yeah.
So there's this cheeseburger, right? And it's like back in the day when you bought a video game, you just got the cheeseburger, had all the toppings. Now you buy this sad hamburger, and they sell you the lettuce and the tomato and everything like that on the side. And somebody put those two next to each other, and underneath they said, and here's Fallout 4. And Fallout 4 was this stacked, gargantuan, leaning tower of cheese, a disgusting mess of a hamburger that's just falling apart, but it's got all the toppings and it's huge, and you could eat it for the rest of your life. But I don't know if that's a good burger to pick up.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to put my mouth on that thing, because it's just like, I don't know if all of it doesn't mean it tastes great. It doesn't mean it's easy to hold or anything.
Doesn't mean
like
the
that.
middle's going to be cooked through.
Yeah, there's a lot there, but it doesn't mean all the things that are there are really great.
Carrying the food metaphor to the nth degree, though, the nice thing is you can pick, with Fallout, on most of the things you can pick at it, take a taste, be like, I don't really like that part, so I'm just going to go over here and do this good part right
So
there.
I would,
You shouldn't
I would
talk
say,
with your mouth full.
if we're going to go that direction with the food thing, I think it's also kind of like an all-you-can-eat buffet.
Yeah.
And you go to an all-you-can-eat buffet, and you're like, oh, they got crab wrapped in bacon, they got crab rangoon, they got hot dogs for some reason, they got weird square
Are you
pizza,
at
Jello
Ryan's
cubes.
Mega Bar, or where are you? This is
I don't know.
amazing.
So
are you saying-
all-you-can-eat buffet, and you're like, I got to get my money's worth. How do I? And you try to, you take bits and pieces of everything.
But sometimes
and
you
then wind
accidentally
up-
fill up on white rice.
Yeah.
Like
Sure.
sometimes you eat too much bread.
Sure.
So-
compare that to a restaurant that has a fixed menu, and you go in there like, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, and we bring them to you in order, and you get to enjoy them one thing at a time.
Right.
And somebody has been like, here's some level of curation. And obviously, everyone wants different things when they consume something, whether it be food or media. I always would get annoyed. My fiance and I both got really into Skyrim together. And she will frequently, if it comes up in conversation now, she's like, I never even beat it. I'm like, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Like there is the campaign that they market the game with, because people kind of need to have that one carrot in front of you. But the main story of Skyrim was a thing you could plow through in a few hours, and there were much deeper, more interesting things there, but it's less marketable than, hey, there's dragons.
Right.
And I feel like Fallout 4 is I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, probably the same way.
Yeah, it's a world.
No,
Yes.
it's a world, and it's just a kind of a wide open. I mean, it's just an excuse to go stumble into something wonderful.
It's a world, yes.
It's almost what I hoped MMOs would be back when they first came up
Sure.
with them, except I don't have to deal with other people's crap.
Yeah.
It's just wonderfully wide open, and it's a land of discovery. It's got the same thing that brought me into the original Legend of Zelda.
I think one of the reasons the discussion on this game is so sort of polarizing, and like you said, like it is the same topic that people are falling on both sides of the fence on.
Yeah.
There are people who are calling this game of the year, game of the generation, and other people who are saying I put my 5-10 hours in and I think I'm done. And I think the difference is 6-7 years ago, whenever Fallout 3 came out, we didn't have a lot of games, especially console games, this big.
Right.
We didn't have games
Right.
like this. Cut to 2015, and we live in a post GTA 5 world, a post State of Decay. This year was Dying Light and Witcher and Metal Gear and Arkham and Assassin's Creed, and this is a thing where we're almost open world. These massive 100-hour open world games are becoming the 3D character platformers.
Yeah.
Or
That's
the
a
World War
great
II
point.
shooters,
That's a
where
great point.
like I think we're going to be hitting a saturation, and there are still going to be people who want to play those. But I think some people are just going to be like, all right, I think I'm. It's like eating the best pizza every night for 3 weeks, and eventually, like I need something else.
I think it's
Yeah.
conversely like multiplayer. There was that period last generation where every game would suddenly have multiplayer in it. People were like, but I don't know why. Why would you want that?
Yeah, I don't need the Tomb Raider to have multiplayer.
Why does Lara
Yeah.
Croft have to fight other
And
Lara
and that's the
Crofts?
thing.
I don't
Like
understand.
I played almost all those games you just named, right? And I actually really loved a lot of them. And I think what they did really well was kind of respect my time. And I felt like as if there were moments in Fallout where I was spending a semester in the wrong major. You know, you can easily fall down the rabbit's hole or whatever we called it, where you level up a
Fall
perk
the watership
system
down the rabbit well.
Yeah. Well, you level up a perk system that actually leads you nowhere. You know, where you're like, well, it's like that Louis C.K. bit about having a bunch of Prussian francs.
Did you feel like the perk system just wasn't clear? Or?
No, I think that it's very simple to sort of be like, oops, I accidentally majored in melee combat, and like maybe that's not particularly helpful for a little while.
Can you not respec?
Okay, you have one opportunity to respec. It's right after the tutorial. This is actually in our.
So it doesn't really-
This is in our
Yeah.
guide right now. Like we put this on a page today, but it's just like make a save file right there. To skip the tutorial and start right off. But yeah, if there's another way to respec, I haven't run into it.